There is a plant growing in every abandoned lot, every forgotten field, every ditch and hedgerow across the northern hemisphere. It contains more protein than eggs and more iron than spinach, more calcium than milk. It has fed civilizations for 10,000 years. And they taught you it was a weed to fear. They did not teach you to avoid it because it is dangerous. They taught you to avoid it because it is free. A plant that grows without permission, that heals without prescriptions, and that feeds without purchase cannot generate profit. What cannot be sold must be forgotten. This is the story of the most nutritious wild food on earth, and why every school, every doctor, every agricultural extension office pretends it does not exist. Welcome to Traditional Harvest. Before we open this vault, if these stories matter to you, the best way to preserve this wisdom is simple. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share these harvests with those who need to remember what we forgot. The archive opens in Denmark, 3000 BCE. Archaeologists excavating a Bronze Age burial find something unexpected. Not weapons, not jewelry. Fabric, woven cloth wrapped around the body, had survived 5,000 years in the peat. Analysis revealed fibers stronger than cotton, finer than linen. The cloth was woven from nettles. This is Urtica dioica, the stinging nettle, the plant your grandmother warned you never to touch. For thousands of years, this was no weed. This was survival. Clothing, food, medicine, rope, dye, every part of the plant served humanity. The Danes wove it into shrouds for their dead. The Germans spun it into fabric for their living. Austrian peasants called nettle cloth Nesselstoff and prized it above linen for its durability. In Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, The Wild Swans, a princess must weave 11 shirts from nettles to save her brothers. The story is fantasy. The fiber craft was real. But long before Europe discovered its uses, others knew. In the Himalayas, Tibetan monks harvested wild nettles at 14,000 feet, where nothing else would grow. The poet Saint Milarepa survived years of meditation, eating nothing but nettle soup. His skin turned green. He became known as the Green Sage. He did not starve. He thrived. Native American tribes from the Pacific Northwest to the Great Lakes cultivated nettle patches for food and fiber. The coastal Salish called it the plant that gives everything. They twisted the stems into fishing lines strong enough to catch salmon. They wove it into nets. They ate the young leaves steamed with fat. In Scotland, nettle porridge was peasant food for centuries. In Russia, shichi, nettle soup, fed villages through brutal winters. In Korea, they made nettle kimchi. In Iran, they cooked ashi gazane, a thick nettle soup still served today. From Japan to Norway, from the Atlas Mountains to the American prairie, humans discovered the same truth. This plant was life itself, waiting in every waste place. The doctrine of signatures, an ancient belief that plants revealed their uses through their forms, said the sting taught caution. But those who learned to work with nettles found the sting was a guardian protecting abundance from those unwilling to learn. And then we were taught to hate it. The sting did the work of erasure. Touch a nettle leaf and hollow hairs break off in your skin, injecting formic acid, histamines, and acetylcholine. The burning can last hours. Children learned fear first. What hurts cannot help. What stings must be poison. But the ancients knew better. The very chemicals that cause the sting are the medicine. In ancient Rome, soldiers flogged their legs with nettles before marching into cold climates. The inflammation increased blood flow and warmth. This was called urtication, using the sting intentionally. For 2,000 years, Europeans beat arthritic joints with fresh nettles. The pain of the sting masked the deeper pain beneath and triggered anti-inflammatory responses that modern medicine still does not fully understand. Folk medicine was not superstition. It was science waiting to be validated. The Greek physician Dioscorides prescribed nettle in the 1st century. The Roman naturalist Pliny documented its uses. Hildegard von Bingen, the medieval abbess and healer, wrote detailed preparations. Nicholas Culpeper in 1653 declared the nettle provokes urine and expels gravel from the kidneys. Century after century, the same plant appeared in medical texts across cultures that never communicated. They were not copying each other. They were all observing the same truth. Now, let us talk about what they never taught you, the nutrition. Dried nettle leaves contain up to 30% protein by weight. Eggs contain 13%. Beef contains 26%. A wild plant that grows in ditches outperforms the foods you pay premium prices for. And this is complete protein. All essential amino acids are present. Lysine levels rival legumes. This is not supplemental nutrition. This is foundational. But protein is only the beginning. Iron content reaches 41 milligrams per 100 grams dried. Spinach contains 2.7. That is 15 times more iron from a plant they tell you is worthless. Anemia plagued humanity for millennia. The cure was growing in every hedgerow. No one mentioned it. Calcium levels hit 2,900 milligrams per 100 grams dried. Milk contains 125. The plant they spray with herbicides contains 23 times more calcium than the drink they tell you builds bones. The dairy industry spends billions on advertising. Nettles spend nothing. They just grow. Vitamin K for blood clotting, vitamin A for vision, vitamin C for immunity, magnesium, potassium, silica for hair and nails and connective tissue. Chlorophyll concentration so high the leaves seem to glow. Studies from European universities confirmed what peasants knew. Nettle extracts reduce inflammation markers. They lower blood sugar in diabetics. They ease symptoms of enlarged prostate. They relieve allergies by stabilizing mast cells and preventing histamine release. The plant that makes you itch stops other things from making you itch. The irony is not lost. But here is what industrial food cannot tolerate. You cannot patent nettles. They have grown wild for millions of years. You cannot sell seeds for something that spreads underground through rhizomes and never needs replanting. You cannot sell fertilizer for a plant that thrives in nitrogen-rich waste soil. You cannot sell herbicides to protect a crop that outcompetes everything around it. The economic model of modern agriculture requires dependency. Farmers must buy seeds every year. They must buy chemicals to kill weeds. They must buy fertilizer to replace what monocultures strip from the soil. Nettles break this chain completely. They grow without asking. They feed without cost. They return every spring without purchase orders, so they were classified as noxious weeds. Agricultural extension offices publish guides on eradication. The same government agencies that promote nutritionally empty commodity crops teach farmers to poison one of the most nutritious plants on Earth. The pattern is not accidental. During World War I, Germany faced a textile crisis. The British naval blockade cut off cotton imports. The war machine needed uniforms, needed bandages, needed fabric for 1 million uses. They turned to nettles. German botanists discovered that nettle fiber was stronger than cotton and required no imported materials. A national campaign began. School children collected nettles from roadsides. Women spun fibers in cottage industries. The German army wore uniforms woven partly from a plant the English were spraying with poison. 2 million kilograms of nettles were harvested in 1917 alone. When cotton was impossible, the weed became essential. After the war ended, cotton returned. Nettles were forgotten again, relegated to waste ground and memory. World War II repeated the lesson. Britain, facing the same blockages Germany had faced, launched a nettle collection campaign in 1942. The Ministry of Supply issued pamphlets teaching children to harvest safely. 100 tons of nettles were gathered for dye, for chlorophyll extraction, for camouflage netting. In occupied Europe, nettles fed the starving. Dutch families during the hunger winter of 1944 ate nettle soup when nothing else remained. The plant that armies tried to eradicate became the plant that kept children alive. But wars end, memories fade. Industrial agriculture returned with petrochemical fertilizers and patented seeds. The nettle was a weed again, nothing more. The knowledge survived in fragments. Herbalists in rural England, grandmothers in Eastern Europe, foragers who never stopped harvesting what their ancestors knew. In the 1990s, science began confirming folk wisdom. Clinical trials showed nettle root extract reduced symptoms of benign prostatic hyperplasia. Pharmaceutical companies took notice. They could not patent the plant, but they could patent extraction processes. Nettle supplements appeared in pharmacies at premium prices. The wild plant remained free. The processed version cost money. Today, nettle supplements generate millions in annual revenue. The same plant agricultural agencies call a noxious weed is sold as a health product once removed from its natural form. The contradiction reveals everything. Growing nettles is discouraged. Buying nettle capsules is encouraged. The pattern repeats across the entire food system. Grow your own food and you threaten grocery store profits. Buy processed versions and the system stays intact. But the plant does not care about economics. Nettles grow in 49 states. They grow in every province of Canada. They cover Europe from Portugal to Siberia. They blanket the Himalayas and the highlands of East Africa. Wherever humans have disturbed soil and added nitrogen, nettles follow. They are waiting outside your door. Harvest requires only gloves and scissors. Cut the top 4 to 6 inches of young growth in spring before flowering. The window is April through June in most temperate climates. After flowering, the leaves develop calcium carbonate crystite compounds that irritate kidneys. Traditional harvesters knew the calendar. Modern foragers must relearn it. Dry them, and the sting disappears completely. Heat destroys the formic acid. Steaming, boiling, sautéing all neutralize what makes the plant feared. Even crushing the leaves while raw breaks the hollow stinging hairs. What remains is food, real food. Food that costs nothing and delivers nutrition industrial crops cannot match. Nettle pesto, nettle soup, nettle tea, nettle flour added to bread, nettle powder stirred into smoothies. Every preparation delivers protein, iron, calcium, and dozens of micronutrients. The plant also heals soil. Its deep tap roots mine minerals from subsoil and bring them to the surface. It accumulates heavy metals, cleaning contaminated ground. It feeds butterflies and moth larvae, supporting ecosystems that industrial monocultures destroy. Where nettles grow, biodiversity follows. This is what they never taught you. A plant more nutritious than the food you buy, a medicine more effective than many prescriptions, a fiber stronger than cotton, a soil healer, an ecosystem supporter. And it grows everywhere without permission, without cost, without control. They taught you it was a weed because teaching you the truth would cost them money. Every child who learns to harvest nettles safely represents a lost customer. Every family that makes nettle soup has less need for supplements. Every gardener who encourages nettle patches instead of spraying them reduces herbicide sales. The stinging nettle survived every attempt at erasure. It survived the green revolution that replaced diverse crops with industrial monocultures. It survived the herbicide campaigns that poisoned roadsides. It survived generations of children taught to fear what their great-great-grandparents ate. It waits in the margins, in abandoned lots and forest edges and the corners of gardens where sprays do not reach. It returns every spring, spreading through roots that laugh at cultivation. Climate change is accelerating. Food prices are rising. Supply chains are fracturing. The crops that feed industrial civilization require inputs that grow more expensive every year. They require stability that no longer exists. The nettle requires nothing. It grows in chaos. It thrives in disturbed soil. It produces more nutrition per acre than any cultivated vegetable while asking for nothing in return. When the systems we depend on falter, the knowledge of wild foods becomes survival itself. Your great-great-grandmother knew how to harvest nettles. She made soup from spring greens. She dried leaves for winter tea. She understood that food grows everywhere when you have eyes to see it. That knowledge was stolen by a system that profits from dependency. But knowledge cannot be erased completely. It waits in old books. It waits in the memories of elders who never forgot. It waits in the plant itself, growing through cracks in sidewalks, pushing up through gravel, returning every year to remind us what we lost. More protein than eggs, more iron than spinach, more calcium than milk, growing wild, waiting for hands willing to learn. This is not primitive knowledge. This is advanced knowledge that industrial society was taught to forget. The nettle does not need us to survive. We may need the nettle when nothing else remains. If this harvest opens something for you, subscribe to Traditional Harvest and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase. The next harvest waits.